All right, this is show number 71 of jpeg2RAW recorded on February 5th, 2013. And tonight our special guest is Michelle Moore. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Fresh off a vacation?
Yes.
Awesome. And feeling good, getting ready to get back into things. And I think you were up, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit, but you were up for an award from Framed Awards.
Yeah, I was nominated for Emerging Photographer of 2012.
And I think the voting for that just ended a few days ago,
It did.
January 31st, right?
Yeah.
So actually, if you're listening live or if you listen to this afterwards, we've already missed the time. But that's a big honor. And I think when is it announced when the winner's going to be?
I thought that they were going to announce it soon, but it sounds like they're not announcing it until WPPI. So I might have to go to WPPI this year to find out anything.
I thought I had read somewhere that it's not until March. When is WPPI?
Yeah, yeah. WPPI is it's like March, the second and third week of March. I just know the trade show is like the 14th or something. So it's
Yeah,
like 6 weeks away.
yeah, that's a long time to wait
Yeah.
afterwards. And I had
Well, it was totally a surprise that I was even nominated because I remember them talking about it a little bit. And I went and voted like one time for all my friends and didn't really think twice about it. And then they announced it, and they didn't even tell anybody when they announced it who was nominated. So someone randomly on my fan page was like, "Oh, congrats on your nomination," and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
So who do you know who nominated you, or is it anonymous on who nominates somebody?
It was anonymous, like tons of people, and I think it was based on the volume of how many people voted for you. So I was totally taken aback and really surprised, and some really awesome talent that was nominated for all of the categories. So I mean, it was so cool to be just nominated. So
Yeah, I was trying to pull that page up, and um, I had it a minute ago. There's a bunch of different categories. Your category is the best emerging photographer.
yes.
Yeah, and looking for some of the other names in there. Do you know some of the other names that were in there?
Oh gosh. There was some, I don't remember it. I have to pull
Yeah,
it
so,
up.
well, we'll put the link. We'll put the link in the show notes. There's quite a few. It's unfortunately it's too late to vote for Michelle, but we'll be very interested, and we're pulling for Michelle to be the
Thank
winner,
you.
and we'll be watching that in March whenever they do announce the winner. So is this something they must do this every year, right?
Yeah, this is the first year they started it, so it's brand new. And I think that they actually give you like a physical award, is from what I gathered on the website. But
Nice.
I tried to talk to Melissa, but she's so busy with with the show and everything, so I haven't really talked to anyone personally from Framed about it. But it looks pretty cool because they've really grown in the last year now. They're like an entire TV network. I saw your kid.
Off the bat.
Yeah, if you'd have been here about a half hour ago, my oldest son came down, who's he's a high school swimmer and he has crazy hair, whatever. It's something he did. You would think he would shave his head, but it's just the opposite. And he came down earlier, so yeah, we I usually shut the door so nobody comes and bothers me. But anyway, so we were talking about the Friend Awards. Anyway, we'll watch for March, and hopefully we have good news that Michelle won. But even if you didn't win, I mean, being nominated, there's only a handful of people that are nominated. It's not thousands of people. I mean,
Yeah,
who make the final cut. I'm sure a lot of people are nominated, but the people who make the final cut that you can vote on, it looks like it's only eight. And
yeah. There was
depending on
Wow.
your
13
category.
people.
Depending on your category, some categories have a little bit more, some categories have a little bit less. But I think in your category, it was no more than eight people. which is saying a lot to be one of the only 8 people chosen to be in that.
Yeah, I'm very honored with the nomination. So,
Yeah, so now we go into that, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Michelle and how you got into photography? What what drove you into photography? Because you're obviously still a young person. So how long have you been in it, and what drove you to want to do that?
well, it's crazy to think that this year I'll have been shooting for a decade, and I'm
Wow.
not even 30. Uh, I started in high school. I took a photography class my senior year, and that was a black and white film class. So I spent many hours of senior year in the dark room. And when I went to college, and I took the first year of college like off from photography because I wasn't inspired by anything. The whole reason like I got into it was I had some friends who were in a band, and they were like, "Oh, you like photography? You have a nice camera. Like, can you come to our show and take pictures?" And I was, 18, 19. I'm like, that sounds cool. Like, and so I went to all their shows and photographed bands for 2 years, and just sort of that's where I started, and kind of started venturing off into headshots, and I did the occasional family portrait or event, and just kind of tried it all out. But that's really where I got started, was kind of on a whim from a friend asking me.
Now wait, did you say that was still in high school? You were still in high school
No, she
It
was in
was like,
college.
when you in college? Okay,
yeah, like
freshman year
between
in
freshman
college.
and sophomore year of college, yeah.
Okay. And then so band photography and why didn't what got you to do more seniors? Because that's mainly what you're doing now, seniors in
Yeah,
fashion, seniors in
yeah,
fashion.
yeah.
What drove you toward that?
Well, my first years of doing photography, I was still in college, and I was doing it for fun, and then I started charging like a little bit here and there. And I started doing weddings. I think, I'm trying to remember the years exactly I did weddings from. It's, somewhere along the way, I had a friend who asked me to take her daughter's senior portraits, and I was like, sure, I think I can do that. And I had always I was doing a lot of fashion in college at the time, and I had already established a working relationship with a makeup artist friend, and I sort of I saw the quality of work that always working with a makeup artist led to, and so I just kind of threw together a package and included the makeup, and I did that first senior portrait session. Actually, I always say that was my first one, but I did one before that I shot on film. So I guess this was the first one I shot on digital. And, my blog was brand new. I think this was in 2007. And I put the pictures up of this girl. And I was really, really into blog stats and like seeing what people were Googling to get to my blog. And I was noticing that people were always going to that blog post, like even months later. And I'm like, well, that's funny. Like, maybe I should try doing that. And so I just decided, like, I loved doing that shoot, and it was probably my favorite thing I'd ever done client wise. And so I just decided to try to pursue doing more senior portraits, and then it just kind of exploded.
Yeah, and you are somewhat of a geek yourself, right? You mentioned watching the stats on your webpage and all that kind of stuff. Weren't you? I mean, somewhat of a you into tech or something like that? You a big fan of the Matrix movie?
Great movies.
Great
Well, the
movie.
first one.
Yeah, she's a big
Yes.
fan of the Matrix
I
movie.
will always regret saying that in that interview.
Why? What is wrong with the Matrix?
Oh, I was a nerd in high school. I'm more of like, I'm not like such a gearhead, but I'm really into, I mean, I like science, I like sci-fi movies, I like like marketing and business.
Hmm.
But I think because I'm a Gemini, I still also, and I'm a girl, like I have like feelings and emotions. So sometimes I do things more like based on impulse than necessarily like I'm strictly like doing a math equation
Sure.
and stuff like that. So yes, I am.
And I would think that that mentality is a huge advantage in arts, photography being one of the arts, that emotion and coming at it from that angle is a huge advantage over that. And looking at your work, we're playing some of your work here as we talk, playing some of the photos in the background. I remember back when I was a senior, in high school, like 5-6 years ago. And you look at the photographs back then, and Tim, I don't know about you. It looks like maybe you were in high school a few more than 5 years ago.
Oh, whoa.
But for me, it was only 5 years ago. And
wow.
Time something. And looking at those photos back then, they were all the same. You stood there with your class ring. You stood up against a tree. Maybe it was even a fake tree. You didn't go actually outside. You
That's right. There was a background scene.
Yeah, you were in a line of people, and all your high school shots look exactly the same. You all look the same. You're all pretty much wearing the same clothes because you dressed up for that day, and your mom made you comb your hair good, and and hopefully it stayed combed by the time you got to to take the photo. And you were also hoping that you had no acne that day. It wasn't especially a bad acne day. And then you got whatever they got, whatever it was. You bought the package of whatever it was. And I'm looking at the photos you do now, and they are dramatically. I mean, you can't even compare them to what we got when we were in high school.
Not even this. You would never have seen anything like that 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean 5 years ago.
And I think it is that passion that
you didn't really see it 5 years ago either.
This is true.
No, I think it's a new emerging thing, and so that brings up the question: is you're almost generating a market for yourself. A market that really, it wasn't there in the same format that it is now. Would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved in the last, because I guess I've been doing them for 6-7 years. No, 2007, 5 years, 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't do math.
You like your science.
And even when I started 5 years ago, it was such a new thing, and it's still kind of a new thing because there's a lot of places in the country that aren't really getting it still, and it's even evolving more now in the last few years, where you're seeing like really styled senior shoots that look where they add props and all that, like they're like creating a magazine editorial for teens. Basically, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember back, because it was a few more years than 5 years ago. About how Tim, you took your high school picture. Did you took that home? You put it up on the wall. Your mom did whatever with it. Did the school use it as your yearbook picture or in the yearbook?
I mean, they had the static picture that they used that was behind a white wall, but
yeah, because
I don't remember if any of my other pictures were in the yearbook. I had a pretty boring high school, so
yeah, I imagine I did too. And so back then, the school was the one who basically contracted with the photographer, and you all had photo shoot day. I imagine you're not doing any of this with a school. You're doing this direct to the customer.
Yeah, and I think that's like the biggest thing that a lot of people who are new to understanding what senior portrait photography is are sometimes get confused between the yearbook or like the school picture and like your senior picture, because a lot of yearbooks have senior pages, and that is where, or like a senior section where the senior gets to bring their own photo in. It's not like the school picture that you get taken on school picture day.
Yeah.
right.
And so I think the best way to describe what I do and what the industry is creating like a portrait session for somebody who's graduating from high school that is unique to their personality, and it's a keepsake for them and their family and their friends, and it goes above and beyond what is just a yearbook picture. And so, yeah, I'm not contracted with the schools. Some schools still require you to use a school taken yearbook photo for the senior page or whatever. But what, people come to me and for other senior portrait photographers is to get this amazing experience and photo shoot of their kid graduating high school that, is about them and their personality and not like some, awkward, just school picture where it's like them on a blue background.
Yeah. Now, during the shoot, do you do a shot to say, hey, here's a shot, if you want to submit it to the school as your senior picture, you can use this one. Now let's do all the fun ones.
Yeah, I don't do anything in studio, or there's some schools that still do them on like a blue background.
Hmm.
And like I'll take more headshot pictures and then the students can still submit that. Like schools have really changed, at least in the Northwest, in terms of what they allow you to submit for the yearbook picture. Like they just don't want they just want something that's cropped to your head without like any distractions in the background, and and so
Right.
I definitely know like what the different school requirements are and get a picture in there that the student can use for their yearbook. But it's a lot more relaxed than, okay, we have to go do this on a white background and whatever. So I'm lucky that a lot of the schools I work with have really flexible yearbook photo requirements.
So this being really a new market in a sense, the way you're doing it, it seems like that's both a huge opportunity and a huge challenge. To get the word out. So how was somebody just starting out, and you can talk about your experience. How do you start to build that business? Is it you just get one or two and then word of mouth starts to spread, or do you do any kind of marketing campaign? How do you break out?
Yeah, when I first started, Facebook was still relatively new, and I had a lot of clients that would put their pictures on Facebook, and so that was a really amazing viral free marketing channel. And when I was still growing my business, I did do a little bit of paid advertising with Facebook. I don't know now if people pay attention to those ads as much, but in place of that, the fan pages, that was something that was newer. I think that came out in like 2009
Hmm.
or 10. And one of my senior reps was like, oh, you need to get this fan or a business page. I don't even know if it was called fan pages when it first came out. It's amazing how quickly we forget what Facebook looked like in the last
Yeah, just a couple of years ago. Yeah.
get so used to it. And so using that and being able to tag my clients, that is an amazing resource. And I think now that I'm established enough in my industry, all of my clients are just word of mouth from their friends or seeing them on Facebook, and they know of who I am. But I would say that if you're starting out or moving to a new market, Facebook is still a very useful resource for that. And finding some girls that are in high school to model for you. You could set up some portfolio building shoots and create the work and just try to, create some interest in your business. And I have found a lot of my clients now are also hanging out on Twitter and Instagram. And Instagram's been a really, since it's still really brand new, I'm still kind of fleshing out like how to use that as a marketing tool. But I've noticed that I'll post little behind the scenes with each of my clients, and I actually got a lead off of doing that recently because I was posting enough and people were commenting on it, and finally somebody saw a person that she actually knew in person. She's like, oh my God, you made her look so amazing, like I want that too.
Right.
And so if you just put the content out there,
Yeah,
I think that helps.
I have seen that when I take pictures of people and then put them on Facebook, that often you'll see they're using it now for their the profile picture. You know, they tag it, they send it out to everybody, and people start to say, you know, hey, where did you get that photo? Because you know they can tell quality when they see it. They may not know how to get it, but they can tell quality when they see it, and that gets the word out. Is that sort of what you're talking about? Is it something like that?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that it's important to, I always have said this, it's important to give your clients free Facebook photos. Just put your logo on it. Like, that's free marketing for you. There's no reason to not give that to them. I let them choose their 10 favorites. And so right there, and then it says Michelle Moore at the bottom. And my clients even tag me. I don't necessarily want them to, but I think that they're like, you know, this person took my photos, go talk to her.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know, that's the thing. They have a good experience with you, and then they are proud of the picture they have, so they want to share it. But they also
yeah,
want to say, "Here's the person who did it for me," and that helps out a lot.
yeah.
Um, okay, and I noticed that most of your photos are of girls. Are you finding it easier to get the girls to do something like this than the guys?
Yeah, you know, since I include makeup and hair in all of my packages, I've just always catered to and marketed towards girl clients.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't do portraits for high school guys, unless it's somebody's brother or something, but I don't put it on my website since I don't want to attract more of that work.
Okay.
So I shoot about like 10 guys every year.
Yeah, I would think that the girls will be a little more open to doing that because
Yeah,
it looks
no, the
like a
guys really aren't.
yeah. But
Their moms are though, so.
I will bet you that over time the guys are. I mean, you do a different shoot. You don't do the you know, as we're playing some of the photos here, the three was it like cheerleader girls that are in the classroom. You know, it would be more of a guy centered photo.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, because I've seen some like the guy I was hoping to come in here and be part of our host group is a senior portrait photographer here in my area, and we're going to
Mhm.
actually have him do my son that people saw in a pre-show, who's a high school swimmer, and doing something that is related to his swimming and doing something like that,
Yeah.
or whatever he wants. You know, it's I imagine that would be part of it. So how much when you go to work with the high school girls, and it's not, let's say it's not a model shoot, it is, you know, a paid shoot where you're got a high school senior. How much of it is, and this may be
Oh, bye, Tim.
Tim dropped out. Hopefully he'll be coming back in a second. I thought somebody was joining us, but it was somebody leaving. Um, that's interesting. Anyway, how much of it is you working with the client and saying, "Hey, what would you like to see?" versus welcome back,
Come
Tim.
back.
Versus you saying, "This is what we're going to do."
Oh, for my high school seniors,
Yeah.
you know, uh, so for all of my clients, when it's not a model shoot, you know, it's not necessarily like dictated by them, but I would never do anything that's not their style, or, you know, they bring all their own clothes, you know, they walk in and we have the hair and makeup here, and we do it. And I kind of have like a baseline of, you know, everyone's going to look fresh and natural, and then if they want their hair and makeup a certain way, we ask them and make sure that they, you know, explicitly say what they want, because they're paying for the photos.
Right.
And so yeah, I've kind of developed a style now of shooting, and I think my clients come to me because they trust me and that I'm going to deliver a consistent set of images every time. And I have a number of different things I do when I'm shooting for posing and getting my clients to relax. But I also pay attention very carefully to each person or each girl's personality. And so if one girl's more sporty or more shy or I might do different poses because I know that they're not going to look natural because of her personality type. And so that's kind of how I would like cater it to them. But really beyond that, my client's not telling me anything like specific. I just go there and do the job.
Okay. And some of the things you just said lead me to my next question is
Yeah.
as I'm looking at the photos, I have a real hard time telling which ones were the model shoots versus the regular senior. The ones you sent me. I imagine in this group you sent me that some are model shoots, some are actual paid seniors who are paying for these. And what that is telling me is that you must have Tim, watch the breathing a little bit.
Sorry.
What's that's telling me is that you have really instructed them well, or worked with them well, that they all look natural. They don't look like these are four shots. You know, going back to those high school pictures we took, you could tell we're being told, turn your head a little bit to the right, turn your head to a little bit to the left, put your hand up with the ring. You know, all those things you felt completely unnatural in the shot, and it came through in the shot. But looking at these shots of yours, they all look like, you know, excellent poses. They look natural. They look at ease. Can you
Thank
tell us a
you.
little bit about how you were able to do that?
I think the biggest thing for me is my personality. When a client meets me, like I'm just really relaxed, and I ask them genuine questions and really try to get to know them in a short amount of time, and just really, wow, this is like a loaded question. um, and I say this kind of in my posing guide, is, you want to be honest when you meet your clients, because high school kids are 17. They're still in a very vulnerable place. They're starting to mature, but they, like children, they're not children, but like children, they can gauge people, and if you're being fake, they will pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you come to a shoot being genuine and being honest and genuinely are excited about it, and ask them questions and listen to them, they'll feel at ease, because they'll know that you have their best interest in mind. You're gonna have a lot of fun. I don't take myself too seriously, and I always just let them know, like, it's okay to be nervous. Like, everyone's nervous. This is your first time probably ever having your picture taken. Don't worry. Like, you're gonna have a blast. I'm not gonna take a bad picture of you. I'm gonna make you look awesome. And I think that my clients know that and have learned that from years of like hearing their friends talking about their experience with me. And it's just creating that safe environment, creating an experience, being consistent, being honest, all just kind of works together.
Yeah, and now, so you spent a little bit of time beforehand, I guess, doing the hair and makeup, right? I think you mentioned that every shoot includes hair and makeup.
Yeah, and that is something that I started from the beginning, and it became my niche. And there's so many benefits to doing that. One is all of my work is consistent, because everyone's skin is going to look great, and it saves me so much time in post-processing, because I work with amazing makeup artists. They're not going to make you look like a doll, but they just, they kind of like even it all out. And I think, wedding photographers would probably even notice that if you do an engagement shoot and the woman has makeup done, you can see even on the guy that his skin tone is going to be something you're going to have to play with and post, because it just looks so different when someone has makeup on next to someone that doesn't.
Right.
And because I have an office space where my clients come to me, the makeup artist comes here, and I'm able to spend that 45 minutes chatting with them in a non-threatening environment. They're getting their hair and makeup done. There's not a camera in their face yet. And so it's just very disarming and allows them to just relax, and I can chat with them. I can chat with their mom, and it's like this fun time where no one is like worried about how do I pose or look good for this photo. And
See, I would, and this may be a little sexist, and you can call me out on it if I am, but I would think that is that 45 minutes or whatever of getting your hair and makeup done, sitting there chatting with you, is an enjoyable process for the girl, and she's liking having that attention and interacting with you, and that helps that bond. And I think that would be something you'd have to figure out how to do with a guy. I'm not sure us guys would be quite one. You might not have to spend quite as long on the hair, but two, I don't know, we may not be quite as open to it. Although, if I think if us guys would sit back and relax, we would find it's not quite as bad as we thought.
Yeah.
Now, do you make suggestions on clothing? Do y'all work out the clothing part, or how do you handle that? Because you got the hair and makeup down. What about the clothes? I mean, what if somebody showed up in a wrinkled T-shirt and jeans?
Well, that used to happen a long time ago, just like little things over the years that I've noticed. And so, I have a little cheat sheet on that I send to my clients beforehand that, just says, make sure, this is like one of my biggest pet peeves, is making sure that your undergarments are not showing through your clothing. So if you have like a tank top that's cut different than your bra, make sure you have the appropriate undergarments, just like little things like that. And they're all laid out. And I think that because I put the kind of work on my website that I like shooting, it attracts the same kind of person. And so I think all of my clients kind of shop at the same stores and have the same taste and style. And so I'm really impressed. They really come pretty much ready to go with, their favorite outfits picked out. And if they have more than 3 or 4, and I help them narrow it down. But yeah, they do a really good job, actually.
Okay.
I was not that put together when I was 17.
And you mentioned you have a posing guide. The posing guide that's on your website, and I have your website pulled up here, and we'll have links to all this in the show notes. But your posing guide, is that something that is geared toward fellow photographers on how to pose them, or is it geared toward the senior on here's how you need to pose?
It's geared towards photographers, absolutely.
Okay.
It's basically a workshop in a PDF. I basically, it's not a posing guide where it's like, here's a picture of this pose and go out and copy it. It's a written book almost that explains my shooting process and how to connect to your clients and get them relaxed and to create natural poses versus just copying something and not really understanding the mechanics behind it. I really go in depth of giving you a learning tool so that you can think for yourself when you're on location at your next shoot.
Okay. And for the guys out in chat, I put the link out there in chat so you can go to it. If if you're listening to this later, go to the show notes and you can see Michelle's posing guide there. All right, so let's say I'm thinking about hiring Michelle to do my kid's senior portraits. And Tim, mute every once in a while.
Somebody commented on him breathing again.
Wow. It's a new microphone, it's got to be.
I wasn't going to say anything, Tim, but they called you out in chat.
I feel like Tim is left out.
Well, so you're missing some of the dynamics because Kathleen's not here. So generally what happens is we all serve kind of a role. I'm doing part of the interview and the production of the show, watching chat and that kind of stuff. And Kathleen is doing the other part of the interview, and Tim is doing show notes as we go. He's typing all the stuff. He will interact with chat and put stuff out in chat with the links and that kind of stuff. Plus, as you mentioned stuff, Tim is amazing how he's going out there and finding all these links as you're talking about it and dropping it into the show notes and doing all this kind of stuff. It's a hard job because it ends up having him most of the time muted and not talking.
He should be muted apparently.
Yeah, and but tonight we're missing a third of our dynamic with Kathleen not being here. We also and I really wish you could have got to meet her, because it brings another dynamic with having a girl versus us two guys. But then I shoot Nikon, Tim shoots Canon, Sony, and Kathleen shoots Canon, and then Tim and I are PC and she's Mac. So with all three of us, we make a great team of diverse people there. But anyway, go
Well,
back.
I'll represent for her because I'm on a Mac and I shoot Canon.
There
So.
you go. So you're
We'll
Kathleen tonight.
apologize for you too.
And we like to abuse Kathleen when she's not here. So we'll say you're the younger, improved version of Kathleen. Hopefully she's listening somewhere, or she will later. She'll get me for that.
She's yelling at you right now.
Yeah. But my question I was going to ask is, so I've decided I'm going to do something other than that photo that I get, where the guy just puts you in front of a fake tree. And, I want to hire you. My kid, let's say mine right now, he's a junior in high school. 17. I should know this. I think he's 17. And you mentioned that a lot of these girls that you're doing are 17. When should I start thinking about hiring you? Should it be in my junior year, the summer of my junior to senior year, or during the senior year? What is? And you're up in the Northwest, where the climate is going to come into play too.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, where I am located, because climate definitely dictates also timing of year. But for my market, you should start researching your photographers the spring of your junior year, because you'll want to get them done in the summer, because many high schools, yearbook deadlines are September through November. So if you have an earlier yearbook deadline, you should get them done earlier, because you want to make sure you have enough time to have the photo shoot and get the photos back, and then choose your yearbook photo, and then have it sent to the school and put it on a CD and all of that stuff. So for me, I'm shooting, so I'm already booking to the class of 2014 for through April through the summer right now. And then I'm shooting all my senior reps March, April, and May for the class of 2014. So they come in first, and then between them and then so juniors, and then I would shoot them all the way until graduation, because some of my schools, I work with a lot of private school students, they don't have yearbook deadlines. So if they've missed the yearbook deadline or they don't want to do it, I will get people. So right now, I would be shooting people that are graduating this June, because they just want the experience, or they want pictures for graduation announcements.
Okay.
So I get like another flood in April.
So you're telling me that since this is February, I need to start really thinking about who I'm going to have do it and start booking that.
Yeah, probably in the spring. So
Okay.
you'd be like on top of it right now, kind of early, but it's something you should kind of have in the back of your mind.
And this is for people that are graduating next June.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
speaking of climate, where you live, and I have a sister who lives up in Seattle area. I've never been over there, so I don't know exactly where, but somewhere in that Seattle area. That my family is spread to almost all four corners of the United States, with my other sister living in the New Jersey area. But I know that for my sister living up there in your general area, that it rains a lot. There's a lot of overcast days. How do you? It looks like a lot of your shots are outside.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? You've booked a session. Do you have a lot of rainouts? Do you do it despite of the weather? Are you having to use reflectors, or is it so cloudy already that reflectors aren't doing that much good?
Okay, so that's like 3 questions in one.
I've loaded you up.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, if it rains, I reschedule.
Okay.
I generally, I get really lucky, but April is probably the worst month where I have to reschedule almost every shoot. But my clients understand this, because I don't work in studio. I only work on location. And so I kind of have my schedule set up where I know I book X amount of people per week, and then I kind of leave a day open for rescheduling people from before. So I cap my schedule at X amount of seniors per month, because I want to make sure I have the room to, shuffle people around as needed. This year, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. What I've been doing is I'll check the weather, and if the week looks promising, I'll call my client and be like, "Hey, this Friday, you know, it's not going to rain. It's supposed to be sunny and 40 degrees, but it's going to be sunny. So if you want to come, you should come early." And that's been working out really well for me. And so it's, you know, it's just something that is part of my reality that I've had to just accept that it rains and can't get upset about it. And so that's what I do for that. When it's overcast out, I don't always need a reflector, but if I do, I have the 5-in-1 reflector from PhotoFlex, and it has a gold side. And the gold actually does a really nice job of bringing in a little bit of light on its own. So I can use that to add some warmth to the photo, especially in the winter time. But don't ever use the gold in the bright sunlight because you will like burn somebody's eyes.
Now, are you do you have an assistant helping you?
No, so I'm just shooting just me and my client. I hold the reflector with one hand and my camera with the other, if needed.
You hold the reflector and the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So there's somewhere on the internet a picture of me doing that. I should have sent it to you, but
We'll have to research that one.
it takes some forearm strength.
Now, are you using any kind of, so you're using a reflector, but do you ever use any kind of flash, either off camera or on camera? Hot shoe flash?
Never use flash.
Okay. Okay. And it asks out in chat, so I'm actually feeding some of the questions from chat as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm working those. So one of the questions was, do you do any special thing with focusing? Like, do you do any back button focusing, or are you just using, you know, just the shutter button to focus? Any special technique for focusing?
Well, I shoot with the Canon 1D series. I will have the 1DX now, but there's like 40 some focus points on the 1D, and the 1DX has like 60 something. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
You want to be careful because not all lenses work for all of the focus points. Like they have different. There's all this like technical garbage.
Some of them are cross type and some of them are contrast type.
Yeah,
So, yeah, they work differently, right?
I use the star button and then I scroll through the grid based on like where I'm shooting, and the 1D has the grip on the side with a second set of buttons. So I'm holding the camera and like scrolling through it like this so I can focus on the eye each time.
And are you doing this while you're holding the gold reflector?
No, I'll usually like, you know, hold my camera, get the settings dialed in, and then I might like prop the reflector kind of on my leg, or because I usually only use it if I'm doing a headshot or like a close-up shot. And so I'm kind of like holding it like this close up and then holding my camera, and it's not for like a long period of time or anything.
So I think
I'm always, you know, checking my settings to make sure that my shutter speed's not too slow, because you definitely shake a little bit more when you're holding all that stuff.
Exactly, and I think that's what they're saying out in chat is how do you do that? You know, using like an 85-1.2 is pretty heavy, along with the camera body is pretty heavy.
It is a very heavy.
So, and you know, nobody's asked this out in chat, but I'll go ahead and ask it before, in case somebody wants to know. Is do you have a favorite lens for doing these shots?
So right now my favorite lens is the 85-1.2L. I tend to go in waves, and I've been hooked on this lens for the past 2 years, but I just got my 35 fixed. It's been sitting collecting dust for a year. Yeah. And I pulled it out at a shoot the other day, and I was like, oh my god, I remember why I love this lens so much. But I would never use it for an entire shoot, so the 85 or the 50 are awesome staples for portraits. I really don't want to offend anyone, but I do not understand why you would use a 70-200 for portraits. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that at 200, the bokeh must be like gorgeous, but that lens is a beast.
It is a heavy
Don't
lens.
need
It is
it.
a heavy lens. Yeah, and you know, have you found, so you picked up the 35 and you were like, "Oh, I love this lens again." I sometimes find, you know, a lens I haven't used in a while, I pick it back up and it's like, "Ah, I really like this lens. I didn't realize how much I
Yeah,
liked it." And changing lenses every once in a while actually is beneficial to, you know, yeah.
absolutely.
So,
It makes you have to like reevaluate how you see something, you know. And like the first time I put the 35 back on, I was like, "Whoa, I am so far away from you. I can get like right up in your face again."
yeah. And now are these cameras you're using full frame or cropped?
Yeah, they're full frame.
Okay. Now we hadn't talked about this yet, but you are doing a workshop coming up
Hmm.
here. And when is that workshop?
April 28th through the 30th.
April 28th through the 30th, and it is a workshop in combination with some other photographers,
Yes.
some other big name photographers that you're doing. And the question came out in chat earlier: or do you have any planned workshops where it's just you, where they can come and have just you?
I am working on
Okay.
that.
So if or when you do, be sure to let us know, and we'll let all of our fans know that, you know, Michelle has a new workshop coming up. But is the workshop coming up that you have in April, right? You said
Yes,
April.
yes.
Are there any open slots left?
I think there are two, or maybe just it's almost sold out.
Okay.
So if you're considering it, it's me. So it's with Seniorology. So Leslie Kerrigan, the woman that runs Seniorology, she's speaking. It's me, Meg Borders, who is amazing, amazing photographer in Eastern Washington, Sarah Lane, and then Courtney DeLaura is guest speaking because she works for Altered State, which is like a online women's clothing, and so it's going to be an insane amount of like awesomeness coming happening.
And where is it actually held at?
It's at a hotel in San Diego.
Okay.
I think it's called the I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's in San Diego.
Okay. And so, if anybody who's interested in taking one of those last two slots, what do you know the website again? Or,
It's seniorologytour.com.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you know what I'll do is, I know Tim is probably already looking it up. Maybe he can drop it in the chat. He already did. Look at that.
Oh,
He
nice.
beat me to it. Maybe we'll also, Tim, I'll put it in the Facebook page too, and get that out there, and hopefully help you get those last two slots filled, which I'm sure they will do anyway, with all the fantastic photographers y'all have coming up in that. So, you know, you talked about the lens, talked about the camera. Is there anything else that you bring with you other than your makeup and artist, you know, hairstylist? Anything else that you bring with you that you couldn't do without on a photo shoot?
That's pretty much all. Oh, I bring a little step stool.
Okay. Yeah. So
Somebody asked me recently on my blog or emailed me. It was so random. Emailed me, how tall are you?
because you're shooting looking down?
Yeah, and so I'm 5'6". I'm pretty average, but I have this little tiny step stool that was like $12, and it folds up and it's super lightweight, and it's like the size of my reflector when it, you know, both of them are folded up, and it just gives me that extra 6 inches sometimes when I want to get a different perspective.
Okay. Now, do you do most of your shots are on location? You're going out there and doing maybe all of them are on location. How are you picking your locations?
So I do drive a lot.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I drive around a lot looking for spots, and the problem for me is that maybe I just don't have the eye like you do. When I'm driving around, I'm not seeing the spots I want. Are you driving at certain times of the day to see what it looks like in that light? Or are you just driving around saying, I know what it's going to look like in the morning or afternoon light?
I think because I've done a lot of location scouting, it becomes something that becomes second nature when you're like, I mean, I am always looking at light. Like even if I'm just going out to dinner or lunch with a girlfriend or whatever, like I am noticing the light coming through the window or how it's hitting the wall and what time of day it's at, and just kind of taking like mental notes of it. But when first started location scouting all the main locations I work with now, just drive around and like take side streets, or pick an area and walk around and get a feel for it. Once I find something that's like, ooh, that wall is just amazing, I will come back to it at the time of day that I shoot and check it out and, walk around the area and see what other good spots are within walking distance, because I like to go to a location for my shoot and park and stay there and then just work within walking distance with all of the different outfits that my client wears. Because I don't like to spend time driving and parking and getting to another spot. So that's kind of, just you drive around with a friend so someone can drive you and you can look out the passenger window and take shots with your iPhone. And
I was going to mention that. So, I'm Android, but, same thing is I take
with your phone.
I take my phone and take photos and it, geotags them. And then I bring them into Lightroom, or I don't know if you use Lightroom or Aperture on the Mac. You geotag them, and then you've got a map of those locations, and you can go back and shoot them. Now, a great question from Samantha out in chat is location over light or light over location?
Light over location.
Light over location. And then the next question was, do you prefer a certain time of day, morning, midday, afternoon?
I shoot, I would say, like 2 hours before sunset. I like the bright, clean light. I don't like the sunset light. So I probably shoot a little bit earlier than most people would. But I also like to shoot during the day because a lot of my locations are in places that use open shade. So like in the city, in like a building.
Yeah.
So when the sun is like in the middle of the day and it's really bright and clean, that light that is coming over the building and then being reflected back with the reflector is just so, that's like what is my favorite.
Yeah, I think people often think you have to shoot, either early morning or late afternoon, but like you just said, you can shoot in the shadows. You can shoot just about any time during the day if you do it right.
Yeah. You should have Tim look on my blog because I did a whole post on location scouting. If you Google, like, go to my blog and type in location or something, you could probably get that link for Samantha because I know that I did a whole like tutorial on location scouting a while ago.
Searching.
I'm looking too, Tim. We'll see who wins.
Yeah. We'll put him to work.
So, and one of the questions earlier was, any chance you might come out to the East Coast and do something out here?
I would love to.
Okay. So, if we get enough people to do a workshop out here, I can't remember who said that, but whoever said that, I guess you're in charge of building up enough people to bring them out here.
No, I wanted to make it work, but it was, this time of year, and it was like northeastern East Coast, and I'm like, isn't there a lot of snow? I don't know if that's gonna work, but it would be awesome.
Yeah. And Tim, Meredith beat you to it. She already posted it in chat.
That's not good.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind adding that to the show notes, though, that's
it's going in now.
Thank you, Meredith, for putting that out there. All right. So did I get all the questions that we had set up? Favorite lens, we got that. Workshop. Any other questions out there in chat? Snow is good. It's pretty. Yeah, it's a little more difficult to shoot in, though.
Yeah.
And down
I
here.
have some cold models too.
Yeah, and down here in Atlanta, I live in the Atlanta area. Kathleen, actually, who's the co-host, we live. I don't know exactly how far. We used to live a mile apart. Now she's moved to a little bit different area, but all the time we've been doing this, we've actually never physically met, which is crazy. So to me, she's no different than Tim, who's living in New York. No different than that. But you know the problem
I
down
think I
here,
have a better shot of meeting you before Kathleen does.
yeah, it's probably true. The problem with down here in Atlanta is the heat. It can get really hot
Yeah.
down here.
I know a lot of southern portrait photographers don't shoot in the summer at all because it's so hot. So they shoot in the winter time when your
Right.
weather's more mild.
Yeah, I mean we can still get a little bit we can still get a little bit cold, but you know definitely the summers when you're hitting you know pretty hot temperatures. Although you know the problem I guess you're no matter where you are, you always have to deal with the environment because even where Tim is, you know, up in New York, they get hot summers and they get cold winters, um,
Yeah.
all there. But somebody says they can meet you halfway and you can do Chicago.
I've
That's
always wanted to
halfway.
go to Chicago.
Now, do you
No,
all?
I've actually, believe it or not, Mike, I had to cancel one summer. I had to cancel shoots because it was too hot in Seattle.
Wow.
We got over 100 degrees and the humidity was like 100%, and you just walked outside at like 3 in the afternoon and you couldn't breathe. The air was like, it was intense.
Yeah, because you're spending a little bit of time with these seniors and you want them to be comfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
if you know, I would imagine if you're a senior and it's 100 degrees outside and high humidity, you can't wait for this thing to be over. And that's not
Yeah.
that's and maybe even as a photographer, you can't wait for this thing to be over. And that's not the attitude you want from either person, because it's gonna you know stifle creativity. You mentioned way earlier on that you have you know you include the hair and makeup. Do you have one person that you've come to like, or do you have you know several people that you like, and does it always start in your office and then go out onto the location?
Yeah, I've been working with one girl since day one, Jenny Bowker. She is like my head lead go-to makeup artist. And over the years, I have created a team of people I work with. So I have three people right now that I rely on. And I think it's important to, if you're doing a high volume or um, you're booking things sort of last minute, it's good to have a couple people to go to because you don't want your schedule to be dictated by your contractor.
Right.
You want your schedule to be your schedule, and your clients need to be able to do, schedule that. So I have a few people that I work with, and when I work with new people, I do a test with them first and make sure like they're on the same page and the same level as what any client would come to expect from me.
Okay. And a couple more questions from chat is you know what when you shooting with the 85 or whatever lens you're shooting with, are you shooting an aperture priority, shutter priority, full manual? You know what is it? Or and actually, so me, I shoot a lot in manual, but I have auto ISO going, so it's not, I guess, completely manual. But you know, in other cases, I might shoot aperture priority. What have you found? Do you have one that you prefer?
I always shoot full manual.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, when I think, and this is if you listen to shows way back, you know, most of my photography has been sports, and I shot everything in aperture priority because I didn't, you know, I wanted the aperture to always be f2.8 or whatever it was because I'm shooting with a 300 millimeter. And you know, I was being told, "Hey, you need to go to manual," and I thought that was scary. So for people out there who have not gone manual, it's not quite. Actually, I've kind of changed my mind, and that may be an easy way to start. It really shows you how shutter speed and aperture interact with each other, because when you look through the viewfinder, and imagine you know your Canon and Tim, your Sony are similar. There's something in the viewfinder showing you whether you're over or underexposed.
Yeah.
And you
Exactly.
just change whether you want it to be the shutter speed or the aperture or ISO, whichever one you're wanting to adjust. You just change that to get it to where you want. You may want it to be under or overexposed a little bit because the camera's telling you what it thinks.
Yeah.
Manual allows you to tell the camera what you think. And of course, you have instant feedback in the back of the camera. You can look at
And
that
then
and
retake
change
the
it.
picture if it came out poorly.
Yeah.
And my camera, it's got the live feed, so I can see as I'm changing the shutter. It's got a histogram right inside my viewfinder, so I could see whether or not whether it's going to be overexposed, underexposed, or where I want it.
Yeah. You said full manual. You don't mean focusing manually too, do you?
Oh, no, no, no. Just manual
On the
setting.
exposure, on the exposure
Yeah.
side. Yeah, so and then speaking of the focusings, Missy out in chat says she just got a 5D Mark III, and it's got lots of different focusing, options and all that kind of stuff, and lots of different options in general.
Yeah.
Any suggestions on how she can begin to master her camera?
Oh gosh.
I think
Take lots of pictures.
That is a loaded question. I've never shot with the new. I know the new 5D Mark III has quite a lot of upgrades from the 5D Mark II. So I think, I mean, is she asking like she wants to learn how to use her camera from the beginning, kind of, or just?
Yeah, I'm not sure where she's starting from, but I think the last question said, so basically, how do I keep up with learning new camera technology? There's if you go to YouTube, there's tons of information on YouTube where somebody's showing you how to do it, which can be very helpful. But like Tim had mentioned, nothing beats trying it yourself.
Yeah, I would say I know that Clickin' Moms has like a huge variety of like online learning,
Yeah.
kind of like across the board. But yeah, YouTube and just shooting and going out and experimenting and reading your manual. Like when I got the new Canon 1DX, I had just like nerded out and read the manual.
There's some things, some things you have to go back for the manual for. I look at my camera, and there's something called lock on, long, short, normal, or off, and that's how long it locks on the focus. Now, in most situations, you don't care, but when I'm taking photos of sports, in some
Yeah,
situations I want long lock on, some situations I want short. Some of that is unfortunately, Missy, is just trial and error. You just got to go out and try it and find out what worked and what didn't work. One thing, maybe not all beginners, but I did it when I was a beginner, is you think if you just shoot a whole bunch at the same setting, eventually you'll get something good. And sometimes you got to slow down and look at what did I do and what worked and what didn't work. Because
yeah,
even an image that turns out bad tells you something.
yeah.
You learn from the bad sometimes better than you do learn from the good.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, like, when I was in high school and in the film class I took, when you're shooting with film, there's really you don't see it until you develop the film.
Right.
I remember we did an assignment where it was like, shoot this, and you can only shoot it at like, 200th of a second, or shoot that, like, and you had to learn like what it meant, basically when you were at different apertures and different f-stops, I mean, and different shutter speeds. And actually, I just remembered too, I know that there's another online school called the Define School, and the gal that runs that, I know that she does the course about like basically learning how to use your camera. So that might be a resource to check out. And I know that they have one every few months. So, but yeah, and also, trial and error. And I know in the manual, they, at least in the Canon 1DX, there was like a whole section about the different lenses, or maybe I read this online, but it's like if you have the 50 millimeter 1.4L, these focus points work with this lens or whatever. There's like some diagram, I remember seeing it, so that might also help you out.
Yeah, and Missy brings up another good point. There's almost too much information out there now.
There is.
It can be overwhelming with the amount of information that's out there. Click Moms is a great resource. We had Sarah Wilkinson, who's the CEO of Click Moms, on a few weeks back, and that's a great resource. And contrary to what it sounds like, Click Moms,
Yeah.
they also have males in there and people who aren't moms.
Yeah.
So they're a good resource to check out. And just search on YouTube and try it out yourself. There's nothing's going to beat you doing it yourself.
Definitely.
I would recommend, if you're on Mac or PC, getting something like Lightroom. Lightroom is so cheap now, and you can see all the things that the settings that you had in there, and look at that. What worked, what didn't work. What do you use for your editing software?
I just use Photoshop, actually.
Okay. Have you ever thought about Lightroom?
I have tried them out, and it's not. it's just not something that worked for my workflow.
In Lightroom, when I first got it, it is so different from Photoshop that
It is.
it really is a shock.
You're like, I just want this to work. Why?
Well, it took us about 8 months to convince Kathleen, and I think now that she went over to it, she probably knows it better than Mike and I.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
because
think it's
she
just one of those things where you have to put the time in and the learning curve and really like get it down. But at first, it's like very frustrating because you're like, why is this?
Well,
It's
it's like
like,
the first time I picked up Photoshop, I was like,
yeah.
oh my God.
well, Photoshop would you could spend a lifetime and not master that. But
Yeah.
I think that just shows that there's no one way to do something. You find what
Yeah,
works for you and do what works for you. Now, one question I haven't asked is JPEG or RAW?
raw.
There you go. And we started the show off in the very beginning. Tim was actually my guest on show number 4. Um, and the thought of the beginning was JPEG is a beginning photographer, RAW is somebody who's more experienced. It doesn't have to be that way. You have plenty of people who are pros shooting JPEG. Generally, though, shooting RAW gives you the best quality, and that's why a lot of people will go RAW. So,
And best opportunity to recover something in case you had the wrong exposure.
absolutely, but it
Yeah,
doesn't mean that if you don't shoot RAW, you're not a professional, and if you do shoot RAW, you are a professional. There's a little bit more to it than that, um, but
yeah.
it will get you the best quality possible out of that. So let's do just a couple more questions, and when you wrap up because we're past the hour. Does she do anything special?
It goes by so fast.
It does, and I told you that we go by fast. And if you do when you do a workshop, please let us know, and we'll post something there. And at some point in the future, we'd love to have you back on again too. Your
Definitely.
your career is moving so fast. We definitely want to keep up with what you're doing. Uh, okay, so next question is, do you do anything special to your images in Photoshop? They're so crisp and clear. I'll read it exactly. They're so crisp and clear and beautiful, or is it part of just the 85 millimeter?
Um, Definitely having nice glass helps, but I do, my workflow is so simple. I don't really do anything to my images except for open them up in ACR, which is the little screen that pops up when you shoot RAW before you even get into Photoshop.
Hmm.
And I just adjust the color temperature if I need to and any exposure tweaks. I pull all the contrast out, so basically get like a flat image in Photoshop, and then I apply a curves layer, which brings the contrast back.
Huh.
And I do like any minor like retouching that I need to do, like if there's a zit that, a bump or something that makeup didn't cover, or just, a little burning and dodging. But that's it. I spend, less than like 2 minutes on a photo. And so that's just kind of become my style, is just that really clean, simple, straight out of camera almost look.
Yeah, very very interesting. Because I think that's one thing. As you get better and better with in camera, you find you have to spend less and less time in post.
It's so
Um,
true. It's so true. If you learn how to understand light and your location, and you get a good image to begin with, it will make so much of a difference.
Yeah, and you mentioned the a bump on the skin, having to clone that out. That is one thing where Photoshop is so much better than Lightroom in.
Yeah,
Really,
and that's kind of why I haven't like gotten on that
yeah.
train. I'm like, well, how do you, if there's like a bag under the eye or something, like how do you get rid of that?
So what's funny is even my son is on the high school swim team, and I'm like the team dad taking photos and everything for them, and I shoot the shot, shoot the swim meet, and then put it up on the site. One of the things I've done, and some of the parents have noticed, is I will, as I'm going through them, throw a few of them in Photoshop and clean up their skin, because you can, as you know, high school kids don't have the clearest of skin. And especially without makeup, they don't have the clearest of skin. So I've cleaned that up, and I always have to bring them into Photoshop to do that. That is something that Lightroom is really weak
Okay,
in doing that.
yeah,
So if you're doing a lot of that, it's definitely you'll be going back into Photoshop a lot. Lightroom does make it
yeah.
easy to go back and forth, but you may not have to do that. You mentioned you do some color correcting. That is one of your steps. Are you doing anything in the field to white balance? Are you doing any kind of gray card or expo disc or anything like that, or are you just shooting at a set Kelvin temperature?
For my senior portraits, I'm just shooting auto white balance, and then in post, if I need to match something, because sometimes using the gold side of the reflector kind of gives the image more of a warm tone. So, I have my monitor. I use the Spider software to color calibrate it, and then I just kind of go off the skin tone in the
Okay.
computer.
Yeah, and Spider, I use a Spider 3. I don't have the Spider 4, but I have the Spider 3. And that's an important thing. We've talked about that in the past on the show, is having a monitor that you know you're looking at the true color. Because you don't want to be doing all this editing and to find out later when you get the prints that it looks totally different.
Yeah, I was really lucky before I used Spider, and then when I got it finally, it didn't like change anything at all. So I was like, yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you very much for coming out here. We've gone a little bit past the hour, but we thank you for coming, and we're crossing our fingers that you will win the Emerging Photographer of the Year.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I'll be.
Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to add one more thing after. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that one more plug for my posing guide. If you do buy it, there's access to a private forum on Facebook that I'm a member of, and there's quite a growing community of really awesome people in there, and it's become a really good resource for people talking to each other. And then I jump in there every once in a while, and so.
Awesome.
That is one of the extra perks that comes with that. So a lot of you who might have questions or are new or want to learn from other people that are your peers, it's quickly becoming a really awesome resource for everyone.
Very good. And I think we put the link in the chat earlier. We'll put it in the show notes also. So if you're listening to this later, amazingly, there's still more people who listen, get this as an audio only feed than there are who get it as a video feed. We provide the show both an audio feed and 2 different video feeds plus YouTube. But more people still listen to the show. And I guess that, like me, I on my phone listen to other podcasts as I'm driving to work.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing that, go back out to our website, jpeg2RAW.com. We'll have the show there probably later this week, and you will have the link to the posing guide, the link to the workshop, and to the video she did, or she did an interview with somebody else. Who was that with that you did the?
I did the framed show, and then
Yeah.
I also did a live video interview like last month. That's
I think that's the one I'm
on my
thinking of.
website.
Yeah, and so we'll have links to all that stuff,
Yeah.
and then we'll be watching. One way or the other, whether you win or not is still already a huge honor.
Thank you.
But we're still wanting you to win, and we'll put it up on our Facebook page. Yeah, and speaking of that, you mentioned you have a Facebook group. We have one too. We are now, I think, Tim, we got a little bit over 700 people in the group. So
704, I think it was.
if you're not a member of the group, and we are a totally nonprofit, so I don't have any problem with encouraging people to go out and buy your posing guide and join your group. That's an excellent resource. But also consider joining our Facebook group. There's a lot of great photographers in there. We have a monthly contest or challenge, or how would you say that, Tim? Is it a challenge or a contest? What is the difference?
Well, it's a contest because they get the win. They get the pictures posted, so they're winning.
I
And they
guess
win a prize.
I don't know. I don't know if the difference even matters. But
Yeah.
what it is Michelle, is every month we have a theme. This month actually we had to do a combo because in December it was the best image of 2012. So for January, the 2 themes were minimalism and world in motion. And
Oh.
the goal there was you go out and take a photo. You can only submit 1 photo for the month that met that theme. But since there's 2 themes this month, you can submit 1 for each. And at the end of the month, so like now, people go out and vote by liking the image, and the 3 images with the highest likes then go to the admins which is Tim, Kathleen, Gina Perry, and I, and we vote on the winner. And then the final three and the winner are displayed here on the show. We do a thing on the show. Next month we actually talk a little bit about them. And the winning image is now the profile image for the page, for the group. So we do that, and then we provide links to all those people's all the work, and we've also given some gifts out in the past. Speaking of that, just today, Tim, I got Michael Clark's books back in the mail. Michael Clark was an adventure photographer we had on the show a couple of times, and we gave that as a gift, his book, and got it signed by him for the last 3 months of winners. And the winner also gets to pick the next month's theme. So the only way you can join the contest or challenge, whatever it is, and vote on it is if you're a member of the group. So come out there and join the group. It is Facebook/group/jpeg2RAW. And then if you want to find out, keep up to date with all of our past guests, probably the best place is on our Facebook page, where we love to talk. Since we're nonprofit, we love to help out our listeners by having great guests like Michelle, and any little thing we can do to help out our guests by talking about anything you're doing in the future, Michelle. Anything like the workshops, or when you win the emerging photography. I mentioned the show is available on YouTube, Stitcher Radio, iTunes. And now have submitted to apparently there's some new phone coming out called BlackBerry. We're now in the BlackBerry market. Zune, I know you'll like this because as a Mac user, apparently
that's still around.
Apparently Microsoft has a podcast thing like iTunes called Zune, and you know how you have to get submitted into the Zune marketplace is there's one dude you got to get in touch with. It's not, you can't do it through the website. You've got to find a way, and there's nowhere where it tells you who this dude is. You got to, by some other magic, find out the dude, find out his email address or his Twitter, and then make contact with him. So I have made contact with him, and we're now available in the Zune marketplace too.
Congratulations.
Was that through Jim's podcast the other day?
Yes, through another podcast, I made contact with him. So there's basically all these different ways. If you think of any way that you would like to get the show and you don't know, it's not there, you can't find it, you let us know and we'll do our best to get it added there. If you're looking to see who's coming up, if you want to know, Michelle was coming up, in our show notes, not show notes, in our calendar on Knob Studios, and let me put a link out there in chat. We have a forums. It's not very active. The only thing that's really active is the calendar itself. But the calendar tells you everybody who's coming up and provides links. Like in Michelle's case, I had a link to her website, her blog, and her Twitter. So if you were watching Michelle right before the show, she apparently was having trouble with... what were you having trouble with, Michelle? I've already lost it.
Oh, it was a double... It would
with
say...
Vine. You were having trouble with Vine.
Oh, Vine. Oh, on Twitter.
You were having trouble with Vine. So
I would not upload my video, and then I was like, I need to update the app, and then I updated the app, and my video went bye-bye.
So, you go out there and follow Michelle. We have all those links for that. So you can go to that and see who we have coming up next. And while I do post, like I post whenever you and I did the pre-show, you can't actually watch that. That's not available for you to watch that. But it does show you when we're doing those things, so you can see that a lot's going on with that. Every week we're here available at 8:30 Eastern time. So if you can make a live show, you get to see some of the stuff that goes on before the live show and some of the stuff that goes on afterwards. We appreciate everybody coming out and watching Michelle, and we hope to see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.